Hello, YouTubes. Thank you for joining me. I'm Nicholas W. Fuller, writer, gamer, recovering computer programmer. But today I come to you as an interviewer, something I hope to do much more of in the future. I'm joined today by my good friend Julian Grajales. Hello, Julian. Thank you for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's quite a pleasure to be here talking with you and you know discussing nerdy stuff. It's great.
Absolutely. Yeah, I hope we can do more of it together in the future. The first thing I want to open with, Julian, is that I don't usually call you Julian. How did Julian Grajales come about as your pen name?
So you know me as David Guerrero, actually, um, and that's how we met when I was at college with you down in Orlando. Um, but right after that, I came back to New York City, where I'm from, and I became really politically active. First with the student movement in the CUNY system, which is the City University of New York. They like the public school system in New York City. It's like one of the largest, if not the largest, public school system in the entire country. And it had a very active, dynamic, pretty militant student movement. And when I became a part of that, I remember in the meeting that I was in this part of this socialist group, and there was already a Dave F, a Dave G, and I was, well, what was I gonna be? Dave JG? Like, no, that sounded horrible. David, even worse. Come on. So I was like, well, let me go by my middle name, Julian. And so, my first name's David, Julian Guerrero. And my in sort of like Latino culture, it's common to still use your mother's maiden name as part of your name. So it's usually your four names if you have a middle name. Otherwise, it's just your first, your last, and your mother's maiden name. So I in those circles of people, they knew me as Julian Guerrero. And I published articles for magazines, reporting articles, and I worked on this podcast with a bunch of really fantastic people who I love dearly. The podcast was Working Class Heroes podcast. So in a lot of these spaces, more of the folks that I knew me as Julian Guerrero and not as David. People who know me as David was high school people's work folks, coworkers, my employers. And so that world kind of shrunk as my world and like social justice and activism and organizing and socialist politics got like it's the it's most of my community nowadays. It's
Yeah.
funny actually. My wife, I met her in the movement, and we ended up being coworkers at this youth education nonprofit here in the city. And she met me as Julian, and she didn't know until like 4 years into our relationship that that was my middle name. She was like, "No, come on, David's just so weird. Who's a David anyways?" And I'm like, so I'm like, what, a Julian? She's like, "Yeah, you're a Julian. Cool, hip, handsome, charming, hilarious. Someone worth
Aw.
marrying." She didn't say all
Aw.
that. I added all those parts.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That sounds more
Um,
legit. That sounds more. That's
yeah.
so funny. Okay, now I've got like two stories. One, you of course don't know me as Nicholas W. Fuller because that's way too douchey for me to like just fucking like, hey, how you doing? Like, but right. So you don't know me by a different name? What's the name you used to call me back in the
Sam, and it
day?
was
And do you
short
know?
for.
Do you know why? Like I picked like Sam. It's like because it's the same shit that happened to you. So we were at like school together in Orlando. By the way, you said Orlando, and that made me laugh. Here's like tangent to the tangent. That made me laugh. I don't know. Have you heard like any of the music from Book of Mormon, the Broadway musical?
Oh no, I've not been able to. It's like a $300 ticket to
Oh,
go.
yeah. But you can get like the music and like what listen to the album. This shit's funny. It's like
Okay.
so like the premise, like the Mormon dude and whatever. So in the beginning, he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna go on my mission. I hope I get to go to the best city in the world, Orlando." Like that's where he wants. It's so good, so good.
LOL.
I can't like even fucking hear Orlando without thinking of like that. But So that's tangent to the tangent. Back one tangent. So I was like, we were in college together at Orlando, and that like I think it was the first, maybe second month. I think it was first. There were like 106 people in our class, right?
Right.
And like in high school and whatnot, maybe there'd be like another Nick or whatever occasionally, but like usually not more than one other. Well, it turns out, I guess like Nicks just gravitate to nerdy shit of wanting to like make games. So there were like 5 or 6 other Nicks, and there was even another like Nick F. His name was Nicholas Falcon, which is the dopest name like
Oh man,
possible, right?
that is pretty cool.
Yeah, and I'm like, well, I'm like, what am I gonna do? So I went with my alter ego, which was like my online gaming handle. Which again, like the Lord of the Rings movies had just come out like a few years prior, and like the first movie came out, and my brother and our mutual best friend was like, "You're a hobbit." And then the second movie came out, and my brother, my mutual friend, was like, "You're Samwise Gamgee." So that stuck. I started running with it, especially because eventually I really realized that Samwise is actually the fucking hero of it all, and I'm embracing
Totally,
that shit. So
totally,
anyway,
totally. No,
that's
Frodo
hilarious.
betrayed us at the end. You know.
That's true. That's true. Sam was like, no, and then yeah, Gollum. I mean, if it had been for Gollum, where would we be?
I'll forget it, dude. Hiding from dragons and orcs and stuff. You know,
Yeah, right. That is true. It's true. It's just facts.
it's a
Yeah.
horrible life.
So that's hilarious though to me. I didn't know that that's kind of how you started like adopting Julian. Then we have that like in common. That's so funny because that's
Totally.
right. Um,
And then just to say the Grajales, because I made a conscious decision to choose my mother's maiden name because politically and in articles and stuff like that, I had already been sort of established as Julian Guerrero, and that's more to honor my dad because he was the sort of the person who got me into politics, or got me thinking about the world in that way, and my mom was the person who got me more into like dancing, music, arts and crafts, and so to honor her and that thing she passed down to me called art and writing, is sort of in honor of her. So yeah,
that's
that's how we
dope.
got there. Mm-hmm.
I love it. I wish I could say that mine was like so, emotional and meaningful. Like, well, no, Nicholas Fuller, of course, is my name. My middle name's Warner, and I did Nicholas W. Fuller because there's not another Nicholas W. Fuller online. You look at Nicholas W. Fuller online, it's gonna be fucking me. It's me. And that's why I
Yes,
picked it. But
I'm glad you secured that.
right? Mine. Yeah. My precious. But
Exactly. No, you're Sam. You cannot be going down that path.
shit. Good point. Yeah. Good save. Good save. You saved me, buddy. Whew, close.
That's what
All
I'm
right,
here for.
so you're currently working on your first book, an awesome sci-fi book called The Black Mare that I'm getting the pleasure to read as you're working on it, which is fantastic. But I get to interview you now, which means I'm going to get to interview you through your whole author career, which is dope. So like you're probably someone else is going to be watching this like 5, 10 years down the road when they actually know who you are. But like I'm going to be like, I was there.
You was the first you had dibs, bro.
Right? I got dibs. That's what I'm saying. I was gonna say, talk to me about how we met, but we already kind of covered that. But I'm taking it back. I remember when we were like meeting each other at this university, we were both like, what are we gonna do? We're after high school, let's learn how to make video games. That sounds dope. And then we started doing it, and we're like, actually, this is really hard.
Yeah.
But well, I
Sweet.
remember, just like meeting you, and I was like, damn, like David, Julian, he's so much cooler than me. He's from New York City. He's like listening to Jay-Z's rocking that backwards hat. And I was like, that's cool. That's cool. I'm a beta tester for World of Warcraft.
I mean, dude, I was a beta tester for World of Warcraft also.
Shit, I got nothing.
I'm sorry to say, bro.
Uh
It's a
yeah,
swag. It's a New York City swag.
right.
You're
You
how could you
got it.
not pick up some of the incredible amount of diversity, culture, outlook, perspectives that the city runs with. So, it's just
Right.
move to New York. If you want that swag, no, I take it back. Don't move to New York. Stay out of New York, guys. It's horrible. It's a lot of crime. A lot of crime. People are dying on my doorstep. I'm shoving bodies,
Right,
just
right,
to
right.
walk to the elevator.
Totes.
So,
Totes.
don't come here. It's a horrible, horrible city.
I remember that's exactly what it was like when I visited you for around New Year's. It was
Right? Remember we were
yeah.
like ducking to like
Yeah.
avoid
100%.
bullet fire and stuff
We
like
were
that.
actually in Fox News. Yeah. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
Bill O'Reilly was commentating our, ducking from bullet. Yeah, exactly. That's what it
Exactly.
was.
Exactly. Yeah,
Death
that's
and
why they
destruction, murder. More at 11.
hey man, New York is so gully that they like lit the Fox News Christmas tree on fire. I mean, like,
Lord.
you know what I mean? Like,
It's crazy though. Like I think my wife kind of believes that caricature of the city, and I'm like, it's actually kind of cool, babe. Like, but
I
we'll
mean,
see.
no, of course, I'm not saying any of this about the city is true.
No, I know.
I just don't want to like,
You don't want more
like,
people. I get it.
I don't want my rents to raise 3 times in the next 4 months. So that would be lovely if people just like, Ohio is nice, folks. Stay out there.
Except not East Palestine. Not there so much.
Right.
Not
East
right now.
Palestine, not so much.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, no.
Yeah.
Solidarity to the people of East Palestine.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway,
stay on Ohio.
we're off the rails too. But
Oh, horrible. Too soon, bro.
too
Too
soon.
soon.
So yeah. Getting back to, we got together, we were bullshitting, we both love video games, we were wanting to make video games. Eventually we became roommates, and I remember you used to destroy me in Smash on the GameCube.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I mean, not that that was saying a lot. I was like, what does this button do?
yeah, exactly. I mean, what I remember, I think everyone who plays Super Smash Brothers, like prior to the internet allowing you to play online, or maybe prior to going to a tournament or something like that
Yeah.
in your local area, I think everyone has had the experience of like, man, I beat the hell out of these computers. You know, I'm so good. And then you brag about it. You meet a friend, and you're like, yeah, man, I'm really good at this game. And they just, oh my god, dude, they
Bro,
destroy your confidence in like
that
one
was
stock.
my whole experience with playing League of Legends. But then add like the worst fucking community, as everyone knows about League of Legends,
Oh man, yeah.
right? So I get in like play against real people, and they're like, "Have you ever played this game? You, oh my god!" Like, what?
You're horrible.
Right, right.
I'm quitting now before the game. 15 minutes into the game.
To be fair, like, I mean, I didn't even know the meta because, like, I didn't know that jungling was a thing. Anyone that knows League of Legends knows that jungling is a thing. But when you're playing
Yeah.
against the dumb bots, like, you don't need that, and the bots don't do that. They do duo
Right.
top, but at least they used to. Maybe it's different with the bots now. It's been a hot minute, but video
Who
game.
knows? You know, humans, man, they'll find ways.
They find a way. Yeah.
As Malcolm X said, life will find a way. That wasn't Malcolm X. That was Ian Malcolm from
Yeah,
Jurassic Park.
there you
Sorry.
go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Almost the same. Almost as
Malcolm X is slightly better, but yes, yes.
yeah, man. Well, so speaking of video games, I was gonna ask you favorite video game in general, but I actually want to ask you like about moment. I'm gonna tell you first a story about one of my favorite moments. It was playing a game with you. We were fucking playing Splinter Cell Pandora Tomorrow with
Oh
this
man.
co-op mission while we were like living together, whatever. And this was so fun. You had to sneak around, right? It was one of those like stealth games. And we're both like, it was split screen on a too small TV, but we're like, whatever, we got this. And we're like creeping around, and there were like two dudes, two guards, and they were loafing around watching some soccer game on the TV on the thing, sitting on a couch, and they're just totally distracted. And we snuck up, and we got super close, and we got right behind the both of them. We're like, draw out our guns, and we're like, all right, ready? On three. 1, 2, 3. We nailed them both at the same time. I was psyched about it. That's real moments of genius. It was great.
Oh yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Positive core belief made right there.
Right.
No, man. Yeah, I kind of miss that dual um, co-op stealth games, and they've come out with a couple like not in the same way. Like Dishonored, I think has like stealth, but it's also first person. and it has a bunch of these things, but nothing's like Splinter Cell or their co-op or their multiplayer was so cool, dude. It was like you could play as mercenaries hunting
Oh yeah.
like these
Oh
stealth
yeah.
operatives. Oh man, they got to bring that back.
I didn't play that too much, but I remember it. Yeah, that was cool. I
Yeah,
will say there was like a few years where I was playing like every Christmas, I would play a different like co-op game with my brother on Christmas Day. We like destroy it was like pretty much the Gears of War series, and then we're like after that
nice.
we're like looking for another one, you know? That was good times. That I yeah, that kind of co-op gameplay is like super underrated, you know?
Totally, totally. Couch co-op, man.
Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
favorite video game or top favorite moments? What do you think?
Oof. I feel like every time people ask me this question on the spot, I'm like,
Well, I
um,
mean, it doesn't have to be the number one. Give me like what comes to mind. Just start
oh,
listing them. Start listing them.
well, let me just say, Metroid Prime for the GameCube. Jeez, like just a complete masterpiece. And they just re-released it or released a remastered version for the Switch, and I'm telling you,
Oh,
man,
really? Oh man.
it's the exact same game. It looks amazing, and it's just a testament to the gameplay of that game that even now it's like super like well done and
It holds
tight.
up.
Yeah, it holds up totally. It doesn't feel old at all, to be
That's
honest.
what's up.
So yeah, so Metroid Prime, I'm spending a lot of time on like these like little multiplayer games just because I don't feel like I have enough time. Like I'm trying to play Red Dead Redemption 2, and it's just like I just have to dedicate like an hour and a half to that game every session because they're very thorough. So, and it takes some time. So it's been tough for me to get into single player games more recently, but oh, this one just hit. I love it. Outer Wilds.
Was that one?
It's it's like this. Oh man, how do I explain it without ruining it?
Is that's
It
not the one that that's not the multiplayer one we were talking about before, is it? No.
No, 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 no. That's I think I forget what that one is. Outer Wilds is it's like a first person exploration game.
Okay. Okay.
And you're basically in this like beautifully crafted little solar system, and you are given a spaceship, and you're allowed to travel within the solar system to each planet. There's like not that many, but there's like enough to bring variety, and you spend a lot of time. There's no shooting. It's just like straight exploration, but there's like a mystery tied into the game, and there's no exact way you have to tackle it. You can, hell, man, let me go to the furthest planet and see what the hell's over there, or let me go start with the one nearest to where home is. And it's just, oh, it's so good. I can't recommend it enough. It actually got Game of the Year, I think, in like 2019 or 2020. I think
It's funny
2020.
because like intellectually that sounds amazing to me, but then I get in those games, like these big like open world games, and I'm like, nah. I ended up wanting like a more linear experience. Like some of my favorite single player games were like the early like Call of Duty games, not like fucking Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 with zombies, whatever. No, fucking like Call of Duty 1, the first, And
Yeah,
it was like this super like scripted events, but you're like in this truck and shit's blowing up around you. You're like, oh my god, this is amazing. It was like felt like being in a movie and like the first time kind of having that experience, that was and then I remember playing that whole game through, and like it ends when you're like in Berlin and taking Berlin and like ripping down the Nazi flag and waving like the red. And I was like, holy shit, I just won World War II. Fucking me. You're welcome. That was that felt like such a hero. That's
totally.
it was so good.
No, I remember playing that game, and there are still a lot of memories. Like for Mother Russia, comrades, and you're charging, and everyone's like, "Oh, that was." There was nothing like that at the time, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
For
yeah,
real.
but I respect that, and I think there is definitely a place for that. I mean, the fact that we still can recall these memories about that game, it says a lot. But I'm telling
Right.
you, man, give this game at least a 1/2 hour playthrough, and I bet you will want to go back.
I'll
Like
check it out. I'll check it out.
it's addicting. Um, I honestly am sad that I can't like go through that experience again. Because once you go through it, you already know. But like the first time I went through it, I was just like amazed. Like it's just, yeah. Highly
That's
recommend.
funny. That's like a I've seen so much on like book talk and bookstagram and whatever of like people being like, oh, I wish I could like read this book again, which is legit. Like it would be awesome to read like the King Killer Chronicles again for the first time, Patrick Rothfuss, but you we're gonna talk about that someday. But anyway,
Oh yeah, we
um
will.
but but the games too, yeah. I mean, there's some games that it would be fun to play again for the first time. But
No, totally. And for those who are watching, like,
yeah.
do not look up anything about the game. Just like take my word for it. I know you don't know me, but I'm a Julian, so you know
So he's cool, he's hip, his wife said
it's
so,
cool.
like sort of
Exactly.
when he puts those words in her mouth anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. Shut up, man. But yeah, just take my word for it. I don't know you, you don't know me, but I love you. So just do it how I'm telling you how to do it. Okay?
Oh,
Yeah.
oh.
Just trust me on this.
One more game to talk about while we're on games. Deep Rock Galactic, that's been pretty fun. We're gonna have to talk about that more like some other time. But like, boy, that is a good game to just drop into and like kill some time. Kind of brings me back to some of the like the co-op vibes of like Gears of War. I mean, it's different, but it's sort right.
No, totally. DRG for Rock and Stone. It's like it's awesome. I love that game. It has such an ambiance and like a world that is so well crafted. Like the whole vibes to it, the culture of it all, the fact that there's like a miners union, like dope. I wish they were like actually a union with some independence from the game developer, but whatever.
Some independent. That's hilarious.
You know,
Yeah.
whatever. It is what it is.
Um. I still love calling it Space Moria. That's probably my favorite thing about the game.
That's true. That's true. No, that game is
so
great. I love it.
so you grew up in New York City. You spent your whole like I mean you were you born in New York City?
Yeah, I was born in Elmhurst Hospital, basically.
Word. Born there, grew up, went to wonderful Orlando for college, but then back to New York City. So obviously that means your home is like the set of Friends, right?
Uh,
No?
you
Okay,
know,
wait. It's the set of Seinfeld, right? Frasier?
no,
No, just all right.
no.
So
I'm not a rich white man,
you
unfortunately, or several rich white people. I live in Queens. I live in the most diverse county in the entire country. The 7 train, the train that I take, that most people take to get into the city, it's like its nickname is the International Express.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's the best county in the world. I mean, whatever. It's very provincial of me to stake such claims, but I love it. It's great. Yeah, there's nothing like it really. Nothing like it. I think.
I got
I,
the pleasure to visit you years ago, and I definitely think to me, New York City felt like a massive, always on adult theme park. It's like you're just like sort of like a someone that doesn't live in somewhere where public transit is a thing. You're like riding on the subways and like, oh, that kind of feels like a theme park, and you're just riding like cool thing to cool thing. It was cool. But so yeah, what do I mean? Obviously, you're not living on the set of Friends, right? But what do media portrayals of New York get right? Because there's so much that they get wrong, but what do they get right?
I think it's tough. I think this city has, over. I think it's over or approaching 9 million people at this point. Um, so I mean, I'm sure you could probably hear the sanitation truck in the background.
I don't
Maybe,
right
maybe
now,
not.
so
Okay,
maybe
fantastic.
open the window.
No, I think we should
No, no, add the ambiance. Come on.
have. No, no, it's good because then you'll get everything else you don't want. Which
There'll be
is
the bodies, there'll be the shootings,
the
right?
bodies, the
Everything. Yeah, yeah,
shootings,
yeah.
the zombies, and the gargoyles.
So
Um,
those are all the zombies. Those are all the things that the media portrayals get right.
yes, exactly. Especially Disney Channel does a fantastic job.
Oh,
Man, I am
oh
super
my!
obsessed.
We're bringing it back to Gargoyles from the Disney. That shit was dope. That thing. Oh
Exactly.
my god! What
You
an
see what I mean?
underrated cartoon.
Exactly. This is exactly what I mean. No, listen. What I'm trying to say is that the city is everything you think it is and everything you think it is. It's just a city with that much diversity, complexity. There is a world onto each block. I mean, you have blocks. It's also a very dense city, so you have maybe in one city block, in some places you have 2,000 people or maybe more. You have some of these buildings in Manhattan or in the Bronx or um, even some like more residential areas. They just have a lot of people. So each one of those is a potential world of its own, with its own culture, its own community, its own outlook. And people make of it what they can, what they want. So what I will say is that it was a city that definitely had a much more immigrant character to it, and I think it had communities that were more. The city is not a melting pot.
Right.
Segregation is pretty intense in the city. Racial and economic segregation is pretty intense. So it's not a melting pot. And I've heard people say it's more like a salad, where like the tomatoes and the lettuce is
They're all
is
next to
there.
each other,
They're next
but
to
it's
each other.
tomato is still a tomato. It's not a salad. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. But still, that kind of variety, it does lend itself to some fusion here and there. It's not as much as people think it would be, and no one's disappearing into this like, you know, as South Park would say, this like brown androgynous looking person that they think we're all going to look like 100 years from now or something. It's not like that. It's definitely like its own thing, and communities had their own cultures, and because of that, they were able to develop their own outlooks and perspectives, and festivals and social events and things like that, and that has kind of disappeared with gentrification, with a sort of internal migration from parts outside of New York State coming into the city, and so that the city has definitely become more of a playground, but it's become more of a playground for the rich. And there's
Well, now I feel
man,
bad about my comment about it, but
no, you shouldn't. You shouldn't. I mean, whatever. This process has been going on, I think, since like the 80s and everything. But like N.K. Jemisin said it really fantastically and very on point in an interview she did with Ezra Klein, I believe. And she said that, there is a suburbification of the city. It's like there is a flattening of the sort of cultural diversity in certain areas to meet an expectation that people out of cities bring with them. And so I think the city unfortunately has lost some of that like immigrant and diverse character. And you have to remember this city's like out of like 9 million people, almost half, like 3.4 or more million people are foreign-born immigrants. So it's huge, and that number has shrunk over time. But yeah, I can talk about the city for another day and a half. So
okay. No, that's kind of that's
yeah.
that's cool though. Like the diversity, and like I do find it interesting too that there is the segregation. I remember hearing, recently that like, and it seems to me that at least like some of the segregation is voluntary, right? Like people want to kind of hang out with other people that are like them. So, and I remember hearing recently that like with the COVID, one of the places that was really bad was in these very strict Jewish communities, because they would still do their big like bar mitzvahs and whatever, even though they weren't sort of supposed to,
Right.
uh yeah, but that the whole thing was like interesting to me, that would be an issue in that particular community. And honestly, like for I haven't lived in a place that's like that has like that kind like a community like that, or that was neat that even exists. And then yeah, but I think it's cool that there's sort of that different like um the pieces of, you get kind of, it's not the melting pot, but you also are able to like experience tiny tastes, like whether it's food or like dance or whatever, something music from like all these kind of different like pieces of different tiny tastes of different cultures. And I think that's amazing.
Totally. No, it's what makes the city very very unique, I think,
Right, right.
on the map.
Just someday there needs to be like some piece of media, or like real wildly popular media, that's not portraying the whole city as just Manhattan, right?
That would be nice. It would be nice to be considered as an existing body.
Yeah, right. Um,
It's recognized. That would be great.
so like I was saying, we went to school together. You went back home to New York City, and you got into doing, you kind of talked about it, but you got active, sort of politically, also socially. You were doing some different journalism, and you actually helped some dude that was wrongfully accused get out of prison.
I mean, yeah, yes, I'll say.
Like,
Let
I
me
don't know.
qualify. Let me qualify
Whatever,
that a
dude. It
bit.
was like, I mean, you had a big hand in this, as I understand it. Like,
Yeah, it was. It was. I guess you're right. I don't like to take credit of these things, but I will say that the person who deserves the most credit is obviously the man himself, Prakash Churaman, who relentlessly and unfailingly continued to declare his innocence against every accusation and the full weight of the Queen's District Attorney's office on him. At some point they even had his mom like pressure him to admit guilt. So it was tough, and he held steadfast to his innocence, and he did everything he could. And we had this radio show that I was telling you about, Working Class Heroes. We were actually on the radio. Shout out to 99.5 WBAI. It's an FM radio. It's a community radio, so it's like you'll find some very fantastic programs and some very cringy and wacky programs there at the same time. Depends on what time you are on, but it's just a great place, and it's constantly having to fight people who are trying to sell that radio station because it's really prime real estate on like the FM band, right? 99.5 FM. So we had done this whole story on a bunch of attorneys and their unions basically refusing to go back to criminal court without the necessary protections, the social distancing. This was during the pandemic and the shutdown. And they wanted to make sure that both attorneys, court staff, and people who are having to deal with the criminal justice system were protected from a virus that's killed over 1 million people in this country. And I don't believe they had. I don't even believe they had the vaccine out at the time. So, anyways, we made that story. We put it up on the show, and we said, "Hey, look, we had this Google number." And was like, if you have any tips for stories, give us a call there. And like literally the day after, we get a call from him straight from Rikers, and he was just desperate to talk with me or to talk with us to put out his story. And after like a month or so of going back and forth with him, and you have to remember these guys only get 15 minutes,
yeah,
like every few hours, like every 4 or 5 hours, so you can't get the entire story in one sitting. You have to do multiple interviews, multiple recordings, and hope it all goes well. But we were able to do that, and from us putting out that story, we had this just phenomenal organization here in Queens called DRUM, which stands for Dead Seas Rising Up and Moving. They are a pretty solid and powerful nonprofit organization that is really focused on organizing South Asian Queens residents and immigrants in yeah in Queens. And they reached out to us, and we connected them to Prakash, and between them and the campaign that came after that, it was great. I mean, and I think like just maybe like 4 or 5 or a few months after he put out the story, he was granted bail, which had been previously denied to him. And so he was out in the real world in the pre-freedom because he was on bail, with a GPS thing attached to his leg. But he was arrested when he was 15, and it spent 6 to 7 years during the years most formative to one's life, right? Bouncing between different prisons, court, having to fight a judge that was hell bent on seeing him guilty and in prison. A lot of these judges spent years as prosecutors for the DA's office, as trying to find people guilty. And there's this whole judicial political economy where the more successful you are in finding people guilty, the higher you go up the ranks. So there's problems there, and we try to write about that, and this was completely something evident in his story, and whatever. It was just incredible. You're just so used to living in sort of a system that breaks like a million people into one sort of constitutional or representative district, and it's hard to get hurt at all. So you're so used to shouting into the void and never getting a response at times, that to be able to write these stories and then to be sitting in court and the judge is like, why is it that I'm reading in this article that you said blah, 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 and blah, 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 Mr. Churman, and his attorney, of course, who was like flabbergasted at the fact that the judge is reading my article out in the court to try to discourage Prakash's efforts to continue to fight for his freedom and his campaign and whatnot. So, and then like, I think a few months after, I think maybe a year after he was out on bail, or maybe even less, the DA dropped all the charges against him. They said they didn't have a case. They dropped the case altogether, and he's a free man now. He's a free man. Prakash Sherman is a free man. And we played some role in that, and it's one of the most exciting moments in my life, if not as a journalist or as a writer. And it was certainly a highlight last year. It was just like, man, I cried for a week just thinking about it. And I just remember listening to Nina Simone's oh man, what is that song? Yeah, but it was fantastic. I gotta find that song. But
I feel like, I mean, I know you're working on your first book and you have ideas and plans for like more, but I feel like it's already just downhill. Like you could sell like so many books, but like you're never gonna be like, well, but my writing also got a guy out of prison. I mean, fuck, dude. Like,
yeah, if I never sell a book, it'd be fantastic. I would still be very proud of everything I've been able to achieve up until now.
As you should be.
In community, of course.
So obviously that's kind of a heavy question. I'm going to take it to a much lighter place now, hopefully. Like my question, all right, I know you're a bit of a comic nerd, a little bit of a manga nerd, so you want something fun. If you could have a superpower, what would it be? I feel like, again, you already got to do that in prison. So like, I mean, do you even need a superpower? But go ahead, if you could have a superpower, what would your superpower be?
Oh man, if I could have a superpower. Sometimes I just wish I could freeze time.
Oh my God, that's my fucking superpower. We're the same person.
Oh, jeez.
All right. Tell me more about like you. That's crazy, but we didn't plan this anyway. Tell me more about like why you want to freeze time.
There's just so much to do, so much that I want to do, and when you're giving 7 to 8 hours a day, some of the most productive time over to an employer, there's just so much left over for you to do the things you want to do. So I wish I could freeze time to, read all the books I want to read, play all the music I want to play, write all the books I should be writing. Or stories, I should say.
How are we the same person? Like, I mean, like that's exactly what I would fucking do with that shit too. And like, that's and I'll tell you though, as someone that's like self-employed, like it's not just the fucking job that's the problem. You know what I mean? Like
that's true.
I get a lot of flexibility with my schedule, but like, I still don't read as much as I'd like to. But if I could just like be like, okay, everyone else, boop, but I'm gonna read a book. The only thing I would add to your list is like every once in a while I'd be like, fuck all y'all, I'm taking a nap.
Oh, dude. Oh, man.
Right?
That would be worth everything we have to fight for to get there.
I would get the Infinity Gauntlet from Thanos if I could be like, wait, guys,
Hold
map.
on. Just give me a quick 30. Just a quick 30, guys.
Good shit. All right. So another question. This one I wanted to ask you in advance. I asked you what your favorite book was. You thought about it for a bit, and you said Perdido Street Station by China Mayville, right? Mayville?
Right.
All right.
Maybe I think, yeah.
So this is I want to do more interviews on this channel, and like I want to do this multiple times. So what the reason why I asked you ahead of time is so
Okay.
that you said that this book won awards, right?
Which one?
Perdido Street Station.
I think it won. I mean, it won my heart. So
Okay. But now we're gonna read some reviews from some couple people that don't feel the same way. I want to read to you some 1-star reviews, and I just feel free to jump in. You can cut me off. I want your reactions. Make faces, whatever. All right.
okay, fair.
All right. So this is some review from Amazon. 1 out of 5 stars. If this is the future of horror punk, I want no part of it. This book is a mess, and when one reads it, you can almost hear the self-conscious rattling of the author and the genre he's trying to expand, but just fails on almost all levels. Here is a world where all sorts of fantastic technology exists, yet things like a telephone or radio are unheard of. The language and metaphors are cumbersome, and author uses every chance he gets to flesh like that makes things more terrifying. Also, I would add that this is more of a fantasy novel than anything else. If you want something well written without one-dimensional characters, try something else. Blah.
Man, they're so wrong. They're so wrong.
They don't
I
know
mean,
a goddamn thing.
Okay, Perdido Street Station is like what's called like weird sci-fi. It helped create. Well, I don't know if it created it, but whatever. At the time, it was like lumped together with a couple other books that had this like kind of really different vibe to it, and I think the problem with the book is there are no problems, and these people just never grew up in a city, and so they have no idea like the kind of incredible diversity or perspective shift that happened every other couple blocks. And Perdido Street Station. I mean, I think you're that one reviewer who said it's more fantasy. I mean, it kind of treads the line because it's supposed to be a sort of like a steampunk um, city, New Crobazon, I think is, if I remember, I read this a little while ago. And it's, there's multiple species, there's multiple, religious factions. It does have like otherworldly, fantasy elements into it as well. But it's just so good. It's just like it all comes together, and some of it you gotta just like, let it be a sci-fi book, bro. Like let it suspend just a bit of disbelief. It's not even like inconsistent in its logic. It's very consistent, I thought. So consistent that it really creates this whole world and it feels believable without you having to like go through exposition dump after exposition dump for each of the different races or factions or groups of beings in the city, and the fact that China is able to bring all this together so interestingly without it having to be the main character. It's not like the city and just walking through the city is what the book's about. It has its own story, but it places you in the city that's so alive and so, yeah, weird, but not,
Okay.
weird is not a value judgment, right?
I'm going to read you one more 1-star review for the same book.
Okay.
Can't finish it. I am 2/3 of the way through this book and I can't take it anymore. It is awful. While the high praise, I don't know. I really don't. I can't believe there are 2 more books in this series. Wasn't 1 torture enough? I give the author praise for his very unusual and descriptive imagery. It is truly unique and probably the only thing I enjoyed about this book. That said, he uses $1,000 words when $10 words would suffice. I'm gonna stop myself on that. Like, I mean, I've heard of a, $10 word, or that's but $1,000. What is it? Is anti-disestablishmentarianism $1,000 word? Like, I can't think of another that might be.
Oh man, no, I'll tell you, this guy is like, I can never pronounce this word, erudite, or like he is literally brilliant. I think, in my personal mind, I mean, he is just incredibly well read. China enables. He's also politically active. He's like, you can look up online like a list of like socialist sci-fi, and he's put together like a list. And I was reading a bunch of that for a while, and it's really good. And so he has this way of thinking about systems that comes into the book, but not, again, not like hitting you over the head. But yeah, he has some words in there that I was just like, what, what, huh? You still get it, I think. And it's part of the flavor of like the time, and it's a part of the texture of the like the setting. But listen, man, the vocabulary amongst folks in our country is kind of low. That maybe it's not so bad to pull out a dictionary, look up
Yeah.
look up the word or two. It'll help you, bro.
Yeah.
I'm only trying to make you smarter,
Good shit.
you know?
I think it's fun to look at, like, because whatever your favorite book is for anyone, there's going to be a 1-star review for it on Amazon or Goodreads somewhere, and I think it's sort of fun to look at that and just realize that haters gonna hate.
Haters gonna hate, man. Look, I think it's an exposure game, right? And it's the more exposure you have, the I can expose a turd on a plate, and if I get just enough people to look at it, I swear to you, there will be enough people to who likes it, who want to create a fan club for it, who are just gonna do fan fiction for it. It's just I would be so lucky if I had several one review stars, because at least it would tell me that people are reading my book.
Andy Warhol has a quote where he said, "Don't ever pay attention to what they write about you. Just measure it in inches." I'm like, beautiful. Yeah. All right, Julian. This has been fun. Before we go, first, tell me a little bit about your work in progress. What's it called? What's the genre? That sort of thing. Anything else you want to share? Then tell the people where they can find out more about you, follow you online, that sort of thing. This
Yeah,
camera, this camera is my hot ones one. Go ahead.
this
What you got
camera.
going on in your life?
I'm just looking at my one camera. Hey guys, um, I bought this camera myself. It's a low production. What do you want from us?
Next time I'll send you hot sauce.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Um, so first things first, I got two sudden fiction stories, or stories less than 500 words, that are going to be not submitted, sorry, published
Publish.
in the Promethean magazine, which is my alma mater's literary magazine. It was literally the last thing I did in class, uh, at the help and assistance of my wonderful creative writing professor, Felice Niels. Um, part of her class was to get us to submit some work that we had either put together in her class with her prompts, or outside. And we submitted it to a lot of us submitted it to the Promethean magazine, and they are taking two stories and they're publishing them. So that's awesome, because it's my first time I'll see my stories in print. Great, right?
Hell yeah. Well done.
Hell yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm happy it's happening as soon as as soon as it is in my writing career. Um, but yeah, that's the one thing. Really excited for that. The other thing is that I'm dutifully working on this the Black Mare, which is name in progress, I think. Or
Title subject to change. Right. All right.
exactly, totally. But it's the work in progress. My synopsis for it is horribly unedited. But whatever.
Give
It's
us a
basically
genre.
it's like a mystery sci-fi. That's what I'm kind of going for. We'll see
Nice.
how it turns out, actually. um, but
Fair.
it's it's about uh, a space rig that floats above Titan, the moon. which is one of Saturn's largest moons. It's one of the largest moons in our solar system. And it's about a former guerrilla fighter who fought in Luna's civil war on, the moon, Luna, right? Yeah, you're following.
I'm tracking.
Hopefully.
I'm tracking.
Yeah, and so this person, the protagonist, his name is Ericelda Serna. Sorry, I just use her last name because of
Yeah.
the setting of the book. So Serna, but her first name is Ericelda. And yeah, she's just trying to finish out her labor contract so she can get back to her family on Earth. And she is just coming upon a whole
She's got a
conspiracy,
mystery to solve now.
a mystery to solve, a huge conspiracy to deal with, and it's exciting. I think I like it a lot.
I'm digging it so far. I'm excited for other people to get to read it someday, but a little bit more, a couple more words to put on that page first.
Oh yeah, I mean, I still have a whole 2 acts out of the 3 to go.
That's pretty good though.
No, and I just got to give a shout out to you, Nick, for giving me that feedback, for reading it, and definitely felt really good to get the feedback that you gave. Basically said it was solid. It's going to be the next Nobel and Pulitzer Prize winning piece of literature.
Now I know how your wife feels about the shit you said earlier.
Yeah, she loves me. You love me too, right?
It's true. It's true.
Exactly.
It's true.
There you go. So it works out. But no, I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
Plugging away, trying to get at least 500 words a day, and that's working so far. So
Dope. Love to hear it. All right, and where can the people follow you?
oh man, I think I have to pull up my Instagram so I can
On the gram?
remember what the handle is.
All
I
right.
should be having like a website of sometime soon. I think when I get these pieces published, I'll do a soft launch,
There
and
you
then
go.
I'll do so that
But
like
for
3 people
now,
look at it.
yep.
But let me see. Sorry, this I feel horribly
No, you're good. You're
unprofessional.
good.
Okay, so it's I just had it. Oh, J Grajales author, or at J Grajales author,
Perfect.
and you should find me hopefully online at jgrajales.com.
There we go. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining me. I hope that we can do this again. I hope that we can make more fun content together too. Maybe talk about, video games and books and other like nerdy stuff that we dig. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to reading more of the Black Mirror, and I'm excited for what's to come from Julian Grajales.
Yeah, man, I'm excited for that possibility, working on more content, having great discussions, and just shoot the shit. And to all those listening right now, make sure you take a follow, a like, a subscribe. Make sure to give a review. I
Doing the
used to do
work
this
for
stuff,
me.
man. I used to
Thank
do
you.
this stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Give me that like, give me that, smash that subscribe button, leave us a comment, share it with your friends. Follow me on the social media. You can find me at author Nicholas W. Fuller, also nicholaswfuller.com. And I thank you for being here. If no one's told you yet today, you're an absolute legend.
Thank
See
you,
you
brother.
later.
Likewise.